And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
Hey folks, today we're taking a look at Colony. This is from Bézier Games, designed by a trio of designers, including Ted Alspach from Bézier Games. And Colony is a dice rolling game where you're trying to build a colony in front of yourself using different cards. It's almost like a deck building game. As you get cards you're going to put in front of you, but as there will be a different setup each game, but it's not really deck building, it's a die pool building kind of sort of thing. I'll show you. This is the box that the game comes in, and all the different cards here are sorted by type. And at the bottom, you'll see that there are 5 types of cards, well, 6 types of cards, Fallout Shelter, and then these 5 cards that are used in every game, and each player gets some starting cards. And then you're going to choose any 7 of the rest. And the rulebook has different starting setups, but what you probably want to do is get maybe at least one of each of these different colors, because each color does a different thing. So here's kind of a setup for a sample game. We have these cards are out in every game, so is the uranium mine and the Fallout Shelter, and then I added 7 other cards. Each player has these starting cards. Everyone always starts with a construction, an upgrade, a supply exchange, and a warehouse. Now, you're going to have 3 dice. These are stable resources. Each resource means something, but whatever. I forget what they mean. But you have these, and you can keep them in your warehouse. You can keep up to 6 dice between your turns. Players also may have chips at the beginning of their turn. Now, the first thing you'll do in your turn is you're going to take these dice and you're going to pull them all and put them in front of yourself. These are dice that you can use this turn. You will also roll 3 stable resources. You're going to pick one of those resources to keep, pass the other 2 to the person on your left. That person's going to keep one, and pass the third die to the person on their left. That way, by the time it's your turn, you're always going to have some dice that you'll be able to use. You can also turn in a chip when you want and roll that when you roll your dice. When you roll this is called an unstable resource. Unstable resources can be used this turn. You get to keep them, but you can't keep them from turn to turn. Then you can use each of your cards if you want to one time. The supply exchange here lets you change 2 dice for the same for anything you want. The upgrade lets you spend a 1, 2, 3, and 4 to upgrade a card. And the construction lets you build a card or take a chip. When you use a card, you kind of just tilt it, tapping it. And then, so you can use each card once. So I look what I have here. I have a 2, 3, 5, and 2 6s. And I look out here, can I buy any of these cards? To buy the Gambling Den, I need 3 of a kind. For the Fiber Mill, I need 2 6s and 2 2s. I have 2 6s, but only 1 2. And so I can go through all the different cards, and the likelihood of me being able to get a card right now is pretty low, even though there's different cards that are out there. But let's say it was a future turn, and maybe I have 3 6s and 2 2s now. I can spend 2 6s and 2 2s to buy the Fiber Mill, or I could spend 3 6s and 2 2s to get the prize safe, but I probably want the Fiber Mill. Well, now when I take the Fiber Mill, first of all, I notice that there's an orange dot on the bottom. That means I'm going to get 1 point. The goal of this game is to get a certain number of points first, which is determined by the number of players in the game. And so I have this card, and now for the rest of the game, on each of my turns, I can use this to take a temporary 5. And that's what the basic cards do. They give you temporary 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. This is one of the special ones, gives you a chip. There's also Fallout Shelters. When you buy these, they do nothing for you, but they're worth points equal to the number of Fallout Shelters. So 1's worth 1, 2 is 3, 3 is 4, 3 is 6, 4 is 9, 5 is 12, and 6 of these is 16 points, which is a win, but I don't think anyone will let you get that many. Other cards will do various things. For example, the Tweaker here, when you have this, you can spend 1 die to take another die that is 1 or higher or lower than that one. The Swindler lets you exchange one of your dice for one of your opponent's dice. The Barricade will block an attack card from somebody else, like the Swindler. The Hospitality Suite lets you trade a die with someone else, and then you both get a 2 die if you do that. The Gambling Den lets you put dice there and try to get those dice and roll them. So you're going to be looking at the cards in the game trying to figure out how to get points. You can see all these cards out here are worth 1, 2, or with the Fallout Shelter could be worth even more points. But upgrading is also a possibility. You can upgrade your basic cards. If you upgrade construction, you can build as many cards as you want per turn, or if you build no cards, take 2 chips. You can upgrade your upgrade card, which means you only need 2, 3, or 4 to upgrade. By the way, notice when you upgrade them, this one's also worth a point. You can upgrade your supply exchange, where you can change any 2 dice for a die of your choice. And you can upgrade your warehouse to keep more dice from turn to turn. Even these resource ones out here, for example, this gives you a 2 temporary resource, an unstable resource, but if you upgrade it, it's worth 2 points, and now it gives you a 2 permanent resource. This prize safe, which is worth a variable number of points, when you get it, you roll 3 dice, you pick the lowest die, and you put it on there, and that's how many points it's worth. But once you upgrade it, you'll roll 3 dice, and you'll pick the highest die and put it on there, and that's how many points it's worth. The Fallout shelters, you can upgrade them to make their point values even more, although you can't combine upgraded ones with non-upgraded ones. The experimental generator gives you 2 coins instead of 1. The tweaker lets you exchange one of these and upgrade it by 1 or 2 on the other die. And let's see, the gambling den gets better. The swindler die lets you switch one of your dice for 2 of your opponent's dice. The barricade, when you upgrade it, you can ignore 1 attack for each opponent, not just 1 attack total when you use it. And so all these different cards, there's all sorts of things that will give resources, but you'll see that as time goes by, at the end of your turn, you're going to continue getting points as you buy more cards and get more dice. And sometimes you'll do nothing on your turn. You'll basically roll your dice, not be happy with what you get, take one of these tokens, and then just wait for a future turn. But eventually the player is going to win. You can also get rid of a card. You lose the points for it. But if you're behind, you can also get dice equal to the difference between your score and whoever's in the lead. Anyhow, when one person reaches the mark that depends on how many players are playing the game, whoever has the most points is the winner. Now, just to be clear, if you have that many points at the end of your turn, you win. There's no completion of rounds. So it's kind of like a race to get the most points. This game has some similarities to the very popular Machi Koro, where you roll dice and see what happens, but there are a lot of differences too. This game is interesting because when someone else rolls a dice, if you are to their left, you're going to be getting the leftovers of their roll. Of course, if they roll really well, their leftovers might be good. In this game, there's definitely a hierarchy of dice rolling. 6s are usually better than 1s. And you have the same cards out there, so you're going to roll dice. It's not that difficult to figure out what to do. You roll dice, you maybe have 1 or 2 options of where you're going to upgrade or buy. You decide which dice you're going to keep. You just go around, and the game plays fairly quickly. The different cards have different theming on them. The theming is tenuous at best. Like I said, each of the dice stand for some sort of resource. It says it somewhere here in the book. I remember I was like, oh, that's interesting. The different dice are the different resources, but, oh yeah, they are scrap metal, genetically modified organism, protein, polymer fabric, fiber, and uranium. But that really means nothing. The theme in this game is pretty much non-existent. You roll dice to get it. There's a couple thematic things like a thief will steal, and a chain link fence will possibly block someone stealing from you. So there is that. But the game is all about getting dice and using them. I like the idea of the game. I like that you roll 3 dice, keep 1, pass it around the table. You're getting dice, slowly collecting dice, trying to get, it's kind of like a slow game of Yahtzee. It's like I roll, I will keep these. My next re-roll is next turn. And you can save up and try to get big things and re-roll. But essentially, and the reason I like the game, and the game is fine, and I would give it a 6 out of 10 probably. But the reason I don't love the game is because you kind of just go with the flow. There's really no strategy in this game. It's all very tactical. Ooh, I have 3 6s and 2 2s. I guess this is the card I will buy. I could decide to not buy this card, but that would be kind of dumb because that's the card I have. Although those are the dice I have. I mean, because of the way the cards come out, you're not going to normally see like, oh, I have 2 4s and 2 3s. There's 5 different cards I can buy. Which one will I buy? So if you think about this like in the terms of a deck building game, and a game where you have a resource, you're like, oh, I have 4, so should I buy that card, and that card? No, this one I have 3 3s, 2 2s, and a 5. There's only, my options for what I can get are much more limited. And because of that, this game is extremely casual. You're just playing and saying, okay, I'll buy this, I'll do that, I'll roll these, I'll do this, I got that, I'll upgrade this, I really want that card, I don't have the dice for it, so it is what it is. You know, and so if you go into that attitude, I think you'll enjoy the game more. Hardcore strategy gamers will dislike this game. My daughter did not like it, and she loves hardcore strategy games, and she just said it was too lucky. What was I supposed to do? And I was like, well, I was able to kind of just, cruise into it. And so for me, it was okay, especially since it wasn't that long. And so I actually like getting dice and rolling them to see what I can get and getting combinations. And some of the cards, like the tweaker, I put the tweaker in almost any game because the tweaker lets you modify dice. And that modifying dice suddenly makes the game more interesting. But if I get an extra 3 die every turn, but most of the cards out there don't cost 3 dice, it's not quite as useful. But I still took it because of a victory point. I like the upgrading thing, but you still need a 1, 2, 3, 4. To me, the first thing I upgrade every turn is the upgrade card because now I only need a 2, 3, 4. But you can upgrade the warehouse. I think the upgrading action is the most interesting one because when you upgrade a card, you can pick any of your cards to upgrade, and suddenly your choices there are much more fulfilling. So I don't know how this one's going to land for many people. I think some people are going to really like it, but I don't think it's going to be like widely hailed as a very popular game because I think a lot of people are going to be frustrated with just the game kind of puts you on a path with the dice you roll, and that's the path you follow. And if someone wins, I doubt very few people are going to go, wow, you won because you outplayed me. Nah, they probably just rolled better dice or happened to have the right dice when the right card was there. Still entertaining, and there is a lot of variety, and I think it might work well as a solo game as you roll dice and to see what happens and play through. I think that would be fun, although it might even be better as an app. Anyhow, that's Colony from Bézier Games. Dice Tower Judgment approved!
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.